Hi, welcome to today's video of Every Mark Matters with me, Mr. McDonald. We are having a look at Edexcel History Paper 3, USA Problems at Home and Abroad. This is a paper that specifically focuses on the Civil Rights Movement and the War in Vietnam. Our question of the day is explain why US involvement in the war in Vietnam changed under President Nixon, 12 marks. This exam question has three components to it. I'm going to break it up to you and present how the exam board want you to answer it. So first and foremost, we have our command phrase. And in this instance, it is explain why. What you must do is you must present the reason. Three reasons, rather. And explain them. You must do 3 because if you do 2, you are capped at 8 marks. Our focus of the question is why did it change? So why did the US involvement change under President Nixon? So I'm just going to underline changed under President Nixon. Okay? Right. So I'm going to annotate the word focus with and maybe 3 or 4 arrows. Press pause. Consider what you know about the war under Nixon. Consider your revision, your textbooks, your revision guides, or any online resources. Start with what's in your head first and think about what changes under Nixon. Ladies and gents, press pause, and I'll see you shortly. Okay, welcome back. So here I hope you take the time there to annotate focus, or the word focus, with what you know about changes under Nixon. I'm going to have a go at that myself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, I think maybe his main one, which is Vietnamization. Okay? And remember, the main thing about Nixon is that in 1968, when he is elected, he promises to end the war. Right? And what Vietnamization is it's just an example of that. And in essence, it is peace with honor. Is his phrase. And my more cynical view is that they are going to withdraw American soldiers whilst training, misspelled training, that's not a good sign, training the ARVN, that's the Army of South Vietnam, to fight the VC. Okay? And the idea here is to make it look like they're not losing. Okay? Right. Let's have a look at another reason. So again, remember, there are lots of reasons for success and lots of reasons for failure. It is a bit of a mixed bag, Vietnamization, but there's lots of reasons for failure. Okay? So what I mean by that is, let's have a look at reasons for failure. So firstly, the ARVN were really corrupt. You know, they would willingly take bribes from anyone in the VC or the Army of North Vietnam. On top of that is they had lots of casualties. and that led to low morale. All right. If we think about success, well, the number of, it almost kind of works. The number of American soldiers does actually drop. So in 1969, you've got 538,000 men in Vietnam. By 1970, you've got 334,000. So that is a drop there, obviously. All right, let's leave Vietnamization for now. Let's have a look at some of the other reasons. All right. Okay, so I think another massive thing that changes under Nixon is you've got the anti-war movement. This is really important for the war, and it almost links back to his promise in 1968 to end the war. He's elected in essence because of the anti-war movement. And within this, you have the Kent State shootings. We have also got, remember, it's the first televised war. People get home after a long day at work, they turn on the TV and they just see what's going on in Vietnam. And again, I really, really, really just want to tie this back to Nixon's promise to end the war, because what this entire anti-war movement does is it creates pressure. And if you are a politician who wants to remain in your job, in order for you to get votes, you have to like caveat to the anti-war movement. You have to say, yes, I promise to contribute to the end of the war in Vietnam, or yes, I have to do whatever, or yes, I support your movement. And all it does, it just creates pressure. All right. And it really is, it links all the way back to his anti-war movement. However, counterintuitively, I think another change is the support for the war. And we know this because of his silent majority speech. All right? And his silent majority speech is important because what happens is it makes him feel emboldened. It makes him feel confident. And I always think when you're too confident, you're more likely to make mistakes. And we know that he becomes too confident because we've got the secret bombing. Of North Vietnam, but more importantly, we've got the expansion of the war into Cambodia and Laos. These are two neighbouring countries next to North and South Vietnam. We know that the Ho Chi Minh Trail actually goes through these countries, so Nixon expands the war, but he keeps it a secret at first. As you can imagine, the American public finds out, goes back to creating pressure. So, does it work for him? Absolutely not. Alright? Right. Finally, our second order concept. In this question, it's a bit of a loose one here, but it is in a sense. It is, in a sense, causation. It could be, you could view it as similarity and difference, but I think Edexcel would more view this as causation. So how did the anti-war movement lead to changes? How did the Vietnamization lead to changes, or why did it lead to changes? So again, similar with causation, you can use this led to. As a result, these are phrases that you can directly use to address the second order concept. You'll never ever be tested on what are a list of second order concepts, for example, but what it does is for you to have an understanding. It allows you to tailor your answer to what Edexcel are looking for. The second order concept is, it's not like what you know, it's how do you know it, how are you going to answer the question. Our question today is 12 marks. That means you need to do 3 paragraphs. Paras, you're going to spend 15 minutes doing it. Okay. Let's have a quick look at success criteria. For this question, you are assessed in AO1 and AO2. That is your knowledge. That is explanation. Okay, alright, just move the camera so you can see it. You will be assessed in level 1, 2, 3, and 4. Level 3 does not mean grade 3, level 4 does not mean grade 4. It's just the quality of your answer. Obviously, level 4 means you are closer to full marks, so in essence that would be somewhere between 10 to 12 marks out of 12. So in terms of your knowledge, you need to make sure you've got 2 facts per paragraph. For your for AO1 level 4, you need to have 2 precise facts per para. In terms of your AO2, what you need to make sure is you must have 2 sentences of explanation, and that might be how or why. For your level 4s, you need to have 3 sentences of explanation. And what that means is you must do how, why, so what. And what I mean by that is I just really want to define this, because it's, what Edexcel do is they call it analytical explanations, and you can't get level 4 without analytical explanation. So what you're doing here is for your how, let's say we're talking about Vietnamization, you are saying how did Vietnamization lead to changes. Your why did it lead to changes? And again, your so what, and again, I always think this to be a sassy teenager, why is it important? Okay, right, so take the time now, put all of your electronic devices away, set yourself a 15-minute timer, put all distractions away. Take the time now to explain why US involvement changed in the Vietnam War under President Nixon. 15 minutes, press pause, and I'll see you shortly. Welcome back. Okay, so as you can see, my purple pen ran out when I had a go, so I've done it in black today. Let me just make sure you can see that first one. So hopefully you have spent 15 minutes explaining why US involvement in the Vietnam War changed under President Nixon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read through my answer as I'm conscious of my ugly handwriting, and as I'm doing it, I'm going to annotate AO1 and AO2. And what I would like you to do is I'd like you to do the same to your own answer. If I've got a bit of precise knowledge, I'm going to put AO1 plus next to it. One reason why the US government, why US involvement in the Vietnam War changed under President Nixon was Vietnamization. So there, what I've done is there's my AO2. All right, I've just presented the reason. I know it doesn't look like explanation, but Edexcel will see it as explanation. This was the policy of withdrawing American troops out of Vietnam whilst training the ARVN, providing them with better resources. Perfect. Right, so I'm going to put AO1 plus for ARVN. I'm going to put AO1 right next to where I've put my definition. The aim was to make it look as the USA was not losing, but peace with honour. So again, there's my AO1. I should have speech marks with peace with honour. There's AO1 plus again. So what I've done is I've just presented the reason. I brought in my first facts. So that is my first fact. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to bring in a second fact. However, I also know, but this, however, look at this, I'm going to present, did it really work? However, I also know that after attacks on Cambodia and Laos, Congress and the American public were furious, demanding cuts in funding and a quicker extraction purpose. So what they're doing, it says my second fact, I know that I've put AO1 here, I've put AO1 here, and what they're doing here is I presented my reason, I brought my second fact. What that does there is it allows me to go on to explain how it changed. This led to secret peace talks. So I love this phrase, this led to secret peace talks between the USA and North Vietnam, as the US was under huge pressure because of the high number of American casualties. There is my how. So Vietnamization, it fails miserably, so rather than carrying on to train the ARVN, they are getting out of there completely. As a result, US involvement changed as the aims from defeating the Viet Cong changed from the defeating the Viet Cong to improving the ARVN, then leaving the war entirely. There is my why. This was important as it shows the shift in the shift from the domino theory to peaceful relations, and there's my so what. All right, it's a bit of a whiffy a paragraph there. I've not necessarily got names, dates, or years. I'm probably missing out the specific numbers in terms of the way that the soldiers changed. But what it does really well is I've brought in two facts. I've gone how, why, so what. I've explained how it changed over time. How did the policy of Vietnamization lead to changes? Right, let's go to my next one. Another reason why US involvement in Vietnam changed under Nixon was because of the anti-war movement. For example, that first paragraph, that's AO2. For example, after the Tet Offensive in 1968, so here we are, here's some AO1+. And the My Lai Massacre in 1968, again some AO1+ here. I've named some events, but I've backed up the years. And the national outrage, along with the Kent State shootings in May 1970, loads of AO1+ there, which was in protest against Nixon's expansion into Cambodia. Additionally, the war was the first televised war, I mentioned that a moment ago, loads of AO1, which dramatically increased the opposition at home and abroad as the massacres, deaths of innocents and battles were shown on TV. So again, there's two facts there. Loads of knowledge there, and I brought in two facts to back up my answer. Right, let's have a look at this, how it changed, why it changed, what was special about the anti-war movement. This forced Nixon and Congress to reduce its involvement as their actions as it massively reflected public attitudes. So there's my how. So I've explained how the anti-war movement forced them to make changes. As a result, if Congress members, let's have a look at the remainder, wanted to stay in power, they had to take action to this opposition and reduce US involvement. There's my why. This shows the impact of public attitudes and the anti-war movement as it influenced the change in involvement because their opinions reflected the future of presidents and members of Congress. There's my so what. It's a tale as old as time. Public opinions lead to changes in leadership and governments. Again, loads of precise knowledge in this one. My how, why, so what explains how changes happen. I think maybe my how could have been a little bit improved, but it's a really strong answer so far. Now, if I don't write this third paragraph, I'm capped at 8 even with my how, why, so what. So let's make sure I get there and finish 12. A final reason why US involvement changed was because of the support for the war. There's AO2. This, for example, during a massively televised speech, Nixon described a silent majority. So there's AO1 again, who were people who quietly supported the war, which received over 180,000 letters of support from the public. So again, there's AO1+ there. I've also defined who were the silent majority, so I'm just going to put AO1 next to it. This motivated Nixon to expand the war into Cambodia and Laos, and carry out secret bombing campaigns of North Vietnam. So there is my first fact. All right. So what I've done is I've simply just gone on to say, here's how he got the support. Here's what he did with it. The aims of these were to destroy the Ho Chi Minh Trail and weapons factories in the north. Right, so there is my second fact. Right, now let's have a look at my explanation. So I said how the support emboldened him, made him feel confident, so he went into attack the Ho Chi Minh Trail and bomb North Vietnam. This meant that despite huge pressure to withdraw and end the war in Vietnam, Nixon felt confident enough to expand the war and deal a winning blow against North Vietnam. There's my AO2 how. However, this drastically changed as the expansion into Cambodia and Laos failed, which created further backlash and contributed to the anti-war movement. Again, AO2, there's my Y. This shows the impact of support for the war as Nixon's confidence as it ultimately backfires. There we go. There's my so what. So again, if I go straight back to my mark scheme that we did together, have I got 2 precise facts in my first one? Yep. Have I got it in my second one? Have I got it in my third one? Yes, I have indeed. Have I got how, why, so what? Absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely. All right, which means that my answer here is a lovely 12 out of 12. And all I've done is I've presented the reason, I've backed it up with 2 facts with precise facts in there, and I've explained how, why, so what. All right? Thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.